just slide it, we get electric. Big KV, bitch, I get set trip. That Nina, domestic, boy got hit. Blew out his necklace, green in my body, I feel like a Celtic. Damn, came with a tank, no septic. Damn, boy had the chop and he left it.
We gonna pause this. Well, I'm on a screen that's gonna play the video. We gonna pause that, and we gonna see what's up with this. Visions of Mana, or Mana, however you want to say it. 5 things you need to know. I'm interested. I saw the art style of it, and it looks amazing. So I want to see what's up with this game. Let's get into it.
For over 30 years, the Mana series has been regarded as a genre-defining landmark in action RPG history. From its 8-bit foray onto monochrome handheld screens to its remakes of the beloved classics, this series has proven to be a mainstay in every RPG aficionado's collection. And now, for the first time in over 15 years, the series is finally
I didn't know it was this big of a series.
Visions of Mana.
Oh, goodness. I didn't know it was this much.
In every RPG aficionado's
1991, 1,
collection.
2,
and now,
3,
for the first
4,
time in over
5,
15 years,
6,
the series
7,
is finally
8,
getting a new mainline
dang,
entry, Visions
and 9.
of Mana. Whether this is your first time brawling with Rabbites in the starting area, or you've swung the Mana Sword a time or two, Visions of Mana is the perfect place for newcomers and veterans alike to jump into the world of Koichi Ishii and team.
Now that does sound like a fairy tale.
This game looks fire. This game looks fire.
Presented by Visions of Mana.
They literally, that's crazy.
If this is your first time jumping into a Mana game, Visions of Mana is a great one to start off with. The game was built from the ground up to be a self-contained experience. With its fresh setting and brand new characters, the standalone story makes it accessible to everyone. Its gameplay and combat system have been refreshed with modern sensibilities, making it easier than ever to learn how to play. No matter if you haven't played any of the games or if you've been playing since the very first game, Final Fantasy Adventure on the Game Boy.
What is?
If you've ever played a JRPG or action RPG before,
What is going
you'll be right
on?
at home with its various RPG trappings. But if not, mechanically, Visions of Mana is super beginner friendly and easy to pick up. The game does an excellent job of being accessible by unraveling its simple, yet deep RPG systems over time. Feeling confused or forgetful? Check the handbook menu, which allows you to reread tutorials or brush up on mechanics you may have forgotten about. Lost or not sure where to go next? The star marker can be found on your minimap and indicates your next objective. You can even pull up the shortcut menu and have the game visually guide you with a path of light you can follow. This is without a doubt the most accommodating Mana game to start off with, and a great return to form for players who've ever thought about getting back into the series again.
You must be off to the Mana Tree to create a new age for us all.
So, what is Visions of Mana about? Its story revolves around Val and Hina, two close childhood friends. As per tradition, an Alm is appointed every 4 years, and they're tasked with offering their soul to the Mana Tree to restore its power.
I was appointed the Alm of the Moon upon visiting Aetern.
Hina is appointed as the Alm of Fire, which sets her on a journey to the Mana Tree. Val, our protagonist, is chosen as their soul guard, the person in charge of making sure they get to the Mana Tree safely. Along the way, Val and Hina come across other compelling characters like Karina, Morley, Palomina, and Jule, who accompany them on their journey. Visions of Mana boasts a lush poppy world filled with rich tapestries of color. Blossom petals dance in the open air, wind flows through flourishing grass and vegetation, sunsetting clouds reflect back at you in the water, and massive structures loom in the distance of vast landscapes. Visions of Mana drips an enchanting style that's packed into every detail. It's obvious there's been a lot of attention and care put into adapting the series' established visual identity into a modern-day style.
Yeah.
Like waking up from hibernation after a long, cold winter.
This game looks freaking fire, dude. I'd love to play this game, dog. I probably wouldn't even play it on stream or like for a video or nothing. I just look at it. Like I just play it off camera. Like I'm really messing with this.
You navigate Val and party's cross-country expedition on your trusty Picools, you'll rarely experience loading screens as you explore. Unburdened by transitions, Visions of Mana lets go of the wheel and allows you to go wherever you want. The environments are varied and present you with numerous branching paths you can explore on your own. Its topography is anything but flat, so you can venture to the top of hills, down into gorgeous valleys, or find hidden paths that
What's good, Travis?
Were initially obscured from view. Traversing your way through the diverse terrain, you'll be using your generous double jump and air dashes quite frequently, making it possible to scale rooftops and platform your way through obstacles. Fortunately, both you and your Pakul have been blessed with mad hops, and players can even air dash multiple times for long distance maneuverability.
How you doing, bro? How you doing? How we doing today, bro? I wasn't gonna stream today. Like I really wasn't, but I decided, you know what, screw it. I'll go ahead and turn the camera on since there's some stuff I want to look at.
Look at it jump!
A lot of content in Visions of Mana is completely optional. Sure, you can go straight on ahead to the main quest if you'd like, but if you so choose, you can take your time to do side quests that you'll discover from around the map. There's also optional stronger monsters known as Nemesis, which will reward you a great deal for being able to defeat one. They act as a sort of mini-boss that you can test your combat skills on if you think you're up to the challenge. Littered throughout the landscape are many enemies to fight, grizzly syrups to collect, and pots to smash.
Grizzly!
Tucked away in the nooks off the beaten path are treasure chests you can collect to find all sorts of goodies.
This might be useful.
And how could it be a Mana game without all the classic critters that are scattered throughout the world? Seeing modernized versions of mole bears, Chaban hoods, lullabuds, shell blasts, sahagins, and of course rabbites is a truly delightful surprise.
Is it just me, or is this area teeming with monsters?
The nostalgic nods steeped in series tradition will excite returning fans, but also introduces a whole new generation to the iconic creatures that some have spent over 30 years fighting. One of the main focuses of Visions of Mana is its combat, which is what you'll spend a good amount of time doing. Back when Final Fantasy Adventure and Secret of Mana were first introduced to the RPG landscape of the time, they were revolutionary in their approach of giving players the freedom of real-time movement and attacks. All these years later, Visions of Mana is still doing just that, but with so much more. It picks back up where the series left off and makes its combat system more accessible, deep, and newcomer-friendly than ever before by making the combat easy to pick up, yet challenging to master. Enemies are normally spread around the map in clusters. You can choose to fight them or run around if you wish to disengage or not engage at all. During combat, you can sprint around, jump, ground dash, air dash, cast magic, use items, and swing your weapons at any time. When you swing your weapon, you have the choice of doing physical damage in the form of a slash or a strike, which is essentially light and heavy attacks. Along with this are attacks, magic, and abilities that are imbued with elemental damage, which come in 8 different types. These play a huge role in how much damage you'll be doing based on the kind of enemy you're fighting, and when all are combined correctly, you'll be taking out monsters left and right. The ring menu system that was created and popularized by Secret of Mana is also back. You can use this to pause combat to plan your next move, such as casting your spells or using your items mid-fight at any time. For those who prefer a more intuitive and fast-paced experience, shortcuts are another way to instantly execute moves or access items. There's a few more things to combat you'll have to discover for yourself, but one of the coolest things is using your class strike ability with the tap of a button to do an ultimate attack. Your party consists of 3 characters and you can swap between them at any time. They all handle completely differently from one another. Not only that, but they can be whatever class you want thanks to the elemental vessels, which we'll dive more into in a second. Different classes mean a different moveset, and there's 9 total if you include the base class you start out as. Sure, you can play the same fighting style and class the whole way through if you want, no problem, but at any time you have the choice to swap abilities, change classes, and build out completely different movesets once you've unlocked them. You can tailor the experience of the game to fit your exact playstyle if that's your thing. That doesn't mean it'll be the strongest or the most optimal way of playing, but hey, it's your choice to make. Enemies are weak, resistant, or immune to certain types of attacks. Trying to figure out which abilities or magic you should be using to find that weakness is an ever-changing puzzle to solve. Like during this boss fight against the Kraken, where I imbued my sword with fire and it began to chunk his health bar. Typically, changing abilities and classes and trying out new moves will help make quick work of any baddie that dares to stand in your way. But we can't really speak a whole lot about classes without first checking out one of Visions of Mana's biggest features. As you progress through the game, you'll meet 8 elementals and unlock 8 elemental vessels, which grant new abilities to party members in combat and traversal.
So I'm getting Golden Sun. I'm getting like Golden Sun. I mean, I wouldn't really say new gen Pokemon, but like new gen Pokemon, Golden Sun, Final Fantasy. Like I'm kind of getting that from this, and that's not bad. Like, it's cool, but I also didn't know that this series existed, so it was probably it's probably a really good series, and I just never heard about it. This is my first time hearing about this series at all. So
if they look familiar, it's because they probably are. Sylphid, Luna, Undine, Gnome, Dryad, Lumina, Shade, and Salamando all make return to Visions of Mana. Sylphid for Elemental of Wind, Luna, Elemental of the Moon, and so on. Elemental vessels are mystical artifacts that house the power of the elements within them. Once unlocked, you'll be able to equip any one of these to your party members. By doing so, you'll be able to select an elemental vessel to swap classes at any time on any character. By spending elemental points that you'll receive by leveling up your party and such, you'll unlock unique abilities and stat buffs that your characters can then utilize. Take Sylphid for example. When you're out and about and exploring, the Wind Elemental will grant you the ability to access updrafts when you see the elemental trigger floating out in the open. Walk up to it and you'll create a windy trampoline that
what's good, King Joker?
Please, oh baby, don't go.
I can't sing. But simple and clean as the
will hurl you up to a large structure, such as this mountain. And up top, that sweet, sweet loot is yours for the taking.
Alright, King.
Elemental vessel, it can be used as a means of attack mid-battle for big damage and debuffs on enemies. Another example is with Luna's Elemental Vessel of the Moon, which allows you to slow down time.
Everything's slowed down.
In battle, it does exactly as you'd expect to great effect. You can create pockets of moon energy, and if they cross into the enemies, they'll go into slow motion for a bit, giving you a leg up for a short duration. You can get a bunch of free attacks in and dish out some serious damage before the bubble goes away. In addition, Luna has a secondary ability which decreases cast times on your spells and abilities when you or your party members stand inside it.
Looks like the vessel had an effect.
Outside of combat, Luna's elemental vessel can be used much like Sylphid's, where if you see an elemental trigger floating around nearby, you can activate it. This slows down time as well and will be applied to an object or thing in the area, like how it slowed down this river stream to make platforming a little more manageable.
That is
just like the other games in
awesome.
the series, you'll find these elementals over time as the story of the game unfolds. Meet them to unlock their elemental vessels, to experiment with, and find out what works best for you. Or what works on those nemesis that have been giving you the hands for some time.
It's also giving Kingdom Hearts. Now that I'm looking at it, it's kind of also giving Kingdom
For longtime
Hearts.
fans of the series, there are plenty of nostalgic nods and juicy lore tidbits shared between Visions of Mana and the rest of the series, like the Mana Tree, Mana Sword, and numerous iconic characters. It's a series tradition to bridge the gap between each game with shared elements. In this case, one of them is Lil Cactus from Legend of Mana. This little guy makes his return to Visions of Mana and can be found throughout the game, much like in the Trials of Mana remake. This time, he's making his grand journey across the world. Whenever you spot a little cactus in the wild, make sure to help him out, and he'll do so in return.
Did that plant thing drop something back there?
Wondering what all that grizzly syrup sprinkled throughout was for? That's for Dudbear, who is also from Legend of Mana. Dudbear makes his return to the series and is looking for as much grizzly syrup as he can get his paws on.
Babu, ba-doo-doo-bub.
The more you collect, the more you can turn in for some awesome rewards like Cups of Wishes and Serums, which permanently increase a character's stat. These come in limited quantities, so make sure to grab them all when you can. And whatever you do, this is very important not to miss, it's one of the most important features in the game, exhaust every dialogue option in the Dudbear dictionary. Trust me.
Do-ba-ba-ba.
The list goes on.
Do-ba-ba-ba.
The game is packed to the brim with series references, homages, and fan service, so if you're a Mana superfan, prepare to be blown away when you come across other recurring characters like Niccolo, Vuskav, Flammy, and how could we forget about the legendary dancing merchants that have been in just about every Mana game. Or hey, if you're a newcomer with no nostalgia whatsoever for any of this stuff, prepare to fall in love just like we did all those years ago. These are just a few things you can look forward to when you make your own journey to the Mana Tree. The proverbial rabbit hole undoubtedly goes much deeper, but you'll have to discover those things for yourself by checking out Visions of Mana, which you can play right now on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. And for more on all things Visions of Mana, stay tuned to IGN.
Ooh. See, I said if this was on PlayStation, I would probably get it. They said PC also, so I don't know. It looks like a very big game. Perfect. All right. Let's see what's up with this.
Black Myth Wukong is an action-packed adventure based on the classic novel Journey to the West. But no matter how well you might know the story of Sun Wukong, this video game adaptation will still challenge you. If you want to be like the Monkey King, you'll have to master the game's many mechanics. Here's everything you need to know to start that journey on the right foot.
Ugh! Oh, that's
win
going
is all about
hard.
the battle.
Pause.
So knowing your combat basics is essential. Sprinting, attacking, and dodging will all cost stamina. That yellow meter lasts longer than you might expect, even at lower levels, but it can run out. When it does, you'll move and attack much slower. Keep an eye on that meter and learn how to feather it during your fights. There is a floatiness to the combat that makes everything look really flashy, so don't be afraid to hammer on that attack button when you can and dodge away when necessary. Your dodge roll is pretty generous, and your aerial attacks are a great way to get in a hit while still dodging a sweeping attack from the enemy.
Dude, that's fire.
Speaking of attacks, your heavy attack requires its own talking point here. Heavy attacks work quite differently than you might expect in this game. You can't just alternate between light and heavy on a whim. Fill this meter on the bottom right by doing successive attacks, and you'll earn yourself a focus point. These can then be spent to unleash a heavy attack in the middle of your combo. Alternatively, they can also be charged up and released, if you have a window to do so. In both cases, the heavier attack will deal big damage and potentially stagger the enemy. It's worth noting too that your heavy attacks will change depending on what stance you're in. The smash stance heavy attack is the strongest of the three and can be charged while moving, but it has the least amount of range. The pillar stance heavy attack does great AoE damage, but it's fairly slow. And the thrust stance heavy attack does very good single target damage from a great distance away. But it can be easily interrupted, thus losing the charged up focus attack point.
See, I don't want this VOD to just be me the whole time saying that's fire, but like, yo, this is completely, like, this is a little different from a lot of games or Souls-like games. There's like a huge difference. Like, I'm getting Stellar Blade from this. Like, Stellar Blade, but more, I'm gonna say interesting, because I didn't really get into Stellar Blade. Is it? Bro, it look like it's about to rain, ain't it? I can't show you. Actually, I can show y'all. Hold on. Can y'all see that? Can y'all see that? Can y'all? I think y'all can see that. It look like it's about to rain, bro.
Stances can be unlocked by reaching the required level and then placing a single point into their skill tree. There's a lot of melee combat to be had in Black Myth, but our monkey is also capable of casting powerful magic. You'll unlock a handful of spells throughout the game, and it's worth using each one at first just to get a feel and figure out which one best suits your playstyle. For example, Immobilize can hold enemies in place, letting you get in a few free hits while they're paralyzed.
I would use that.
If you're able to land a strong attack while the spell is still active, like the final hit of a light combo or a heavy attack, you can actually stagger them and land even more hits even after the spell ends. This can lengthen the effect and even stack your damage, so more aggressive players might want to consider it. For a stealthier option, you can focus on Cloud Step. This spell leaves behind a decoy while you sneak around with invisibility. This enables you to pop out of stealth for a powerful surprise attack. That can be especially effective when trying to break through a group of archers to ambush them from behind.
How do y'all not see that, though?
Even with all those tricks up your sleeve, you'll still have a tough time with some of the bosses in Black Myth Wukong. The good news is that you don't have to fight every single one. Yes, there are mandatory bosses that must be beaten, but several are optional or even avoidable if you run into them in the field. Chapter 1's Wandering White is one such example. So, just because you see a health bar at the bottom of the screen doesn't mean you're locked in. You're not a coward for running away and coming back later to fight a boss that seemed a bit too strong at the time. When it's time to level up, it's super simple. This game lets you do it right from the pause menu. Just choose the Self-Advance tab and you're in. There are a ton of skill trees to choose from, including your health and stamina stats, as well as the magic spells mentioned earlier. Leveling any of those will cost you a spark, aka a skill point. Fight enemies and bosses and you get XP. Get enough XP and you'll earn yourself sparks. That's pretty straightforward. You can even get free sparks from scattered meditation spots. Just pop a squat. As the game goes on, you'll unlock more and more places to put your skill points. Just note that some branches are locked until you reach a high enough level. Now, if you want to respec, that's easy enough to do from one of the many Keeper Shrines. Resting at one of these will restore your vitals and respawn most enemies, but they also serve as checkpoints, fast travel locations, and so much more.
Perfect.
This is also where you can buy consumable items or sell some of your treasures for will, that wispy in-game currency you might have seen floating around in little green orbs, or from enemies, or even pots. The Keeper Shrines are always updating as well, so it's worth checking in at each one for new opportunities. Beyond everything we just mentioned, the shrines are also where you can craft new weapons and armor. More sets unlock as you beat bosses and clear each chapter. If there's a red dot by anything in the Keeper Shrine, that means that something new unlocked in that menu.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth spending your materials where you
Oh my god, why do these clothes look hard? See, I need this game. This is sort of what like God of War had me, like how Ragnarok had me. Cause I normally don't finish games. I play games, I get pretty far, and then kind of just fall off. God of War Ragnarok, I finished entirely. I was messing with all the clothes that I was getting, like all the attires, the stuff, the buffs, the helpfulness, the buying of things, the bosses. Bro, I was on that game. I'm about to be on this game. Like, no matter what.
Let's talk more about that. Gathering resources in Black Myth isn't like in a survival game. You're not going out and chopping down trees for minutes at a time. Instead, you'll spot various mushrooms, flowers, and other items along the road. It's worth picking them up every time because there aren't enough to eat up too much of your time, and you can carry so many of each resource that you're probably never going to run out of space.
Right.
Get into the habit of spending these resources every time you check in at the Keeper's Shrine, and you'll be able to stay on top of the best gear as you unlock it. That said, you don't want to ignore any of the full armor set bonuses if they're suitable for your playstyle. You shouldn't always chase the higher defense or resistance number if it means losing out on those unique bonuses. Armor is made with its own type of rarer materials, but if you want to make consumable items, then keep picking those plants. Just watch out for surprise enemies.
That's crazy.
It's a good idea to pick up antidotes
Doing
and
no
other
damage.
consumable items as well, because several of the game's enemies will hit you with nasty status effects. Some of the earliest ones include burning and poison, which should be all too familiar with the gaming crowd. Both will slowly sap your health, but unless you stop, drop, and roll, or use an item, it won't stop. On the flip side, Black Myth has several items that buff you too. You can increase your resistance to such burns and poisons, or even increase your attack or defense for a short time. Sometimes that can make all the difference in a tough boss fight. As always, make sure to check in at the shrine for its ever-changing stock. In addition to adding new wares over time, each chapter has its own main stock, so if you move onto a new region, fast travel back and buy up any medicine you forgot to grab. Would you believe that we're still not done with all the game's combat tricks and tips?
Right.
You should be using everything at your disposal in Black Myth, and that includes spirit attacks and transformations. Spirit attacks are like quick summons, letting you replicate an enemy's attack for yourself. Each one also confers a bonus like higher defense or critical hit chance when equipped. Beyond those single attacks, you can also fully transform into certain creatures with their own health and stamina bar. This transformation is completely separate from your own stats, so once you run out of health or might, whichever comes first, you'll just revert back to your regular form. It's a great way to vary up your combat and keep yourself a little safer during boss fights.
Dog.
Speaking of health and stamina, we need to talk about gourds. Drinking from these is how you'll heal yourself out in the field, but as you can imagine, the healing is limited. One aspect you'll need to get used to is that your remaining gulps from the gourd are represented by an icon, not a number.
Yo! Nah, bro. That is just the simple stuff. It's just the simple design of things. That is, because I'm over here like, okay, so it's going to be like the number, 1, 2, 3. The gourd. The gourd is every time you drink, a drop goes down. That is awesome. Like, what? Bro.
Upgrade the gourd. So do yourself a favor and memorize how many sips you can actually take before you run dry. As stated, you can upgrade your gourds and even swap in different ones to get additional buffs. Each one has a different rate of healing as well as bonus effects, and you can further mix things up by adding soaks like temporary poison resistance.
I'm sold.
As with all the other permutations in Black Myth Wukong, you should find the combination that works best for you.
I'm sold.
And with that, we've given you a great list of tips before starting the game. Remember that you can always visit our wiki on IGN for more strategies and guides. Good luck on your journey, and of course for everything else Black Myth Wukong, stick with IGN.
Dog. I'm telling you, it's the simple stuff, man. It's the simple stuff. When they do stuff like that, it's just like, what the freak, dude?